everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well, enjoying what's left of your weekend. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of July 9th through the 16th, 2023. We got a lot of stuff that's going on. We got a couple ingresses this week. Obviously, we're going to be touching on the transits day by day, getting a little bit more insight in terms of what the vibes are going to be like with the astrological weather. If you're new to my channel and you want to see more of my content, make sure you click the button below and you're subscribed. That way you're alerted as to when I have new videos coming out. Every Tuesday and Thursday we've got videos midweek, so you want to make sure you can catch those as well. Astro musings, you've got horoscopes, new and full moon reports, and much more. And check out my website if you guys would like to book a personal reading with me, or if you'd like to take any of my courses on tarot or astrology. I have beginners courses where you can study at your own pace, as well as all kinds of like webinars and extras. We've got new products that we're starting to put out now the second half of 2023 at beyondtheveiltarot.com, where you can pick up candles, astrological calendars, and book readings. So make sure you check that out. And to all the members and everybody who's new subscribers, thank you guys so much. I appreciate your likes, your comments, and your shares. It's really helpful for helping the channel grow. Let's go ahead and get into the astrology for this next week. Obviously, big themes. We're going to be seeing Mars that's going to be changing signs, ingressing into the sign of Virgo, which is really important, especially as we're studying these nodal changes that are going to be taking place the next week or two. The last final moments of having the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio, more or less kind of reflecting and wrapping up what we've been learning about these particular eclipses that have been taking place for almost a year and a half now, and what we've learned with the North Node in Taurus about grounding and embodiment and resources, healthy self-esteem, as well as our wealth, and that South Node in Scorpio, which has been kind of releasing trauma, fear. It's definitely been exposing a lot of the shadow side of what's been going on in the world. And so usually when we see the nodes at the later degrees, we're finally kind of getting an idea of where we have been, wrapping up these lessons essentially. So might be a good time this week to take a look at your natal chart transits and find where Taurus and Scorpio are in your chart. You may not be one of those two signs, but I guarantee you're going to have a house that's represented by those signs. Just to get an idea of like what you're completing, because in this next week, we're going to see it more in astro weather next week. We're going to see the ingress of the North Node moving into Aries and the South Node moving into Libra. And we're going to have a great deal of focus on Mars. So I am going to talk later in this episode. We're going to talk a little bit about Mars going through the sign of Virgo, what it means, where it's going to be transiting for each of the 12 signs. But I'll be doing a deep dive also in another video this week, talking to you guys about themes that you want to be watching for out in the world. And also the fact that, Mars has kind of got its work cut out for it. The very first real aspect that this is going to have that's going to be challenging is going to be in opposition to Saturn. So out the gate, we're going to see some challenges with Mars and Saturn, and that's going to deal with kind of pulling back a little bit, not being too excessive when it comes to Mars-related energy and like jumping the gun. And I like that Mars and Saturn can balance each other out, but it is going to definitely represent some challenges in regards to what we're doing with our anger, what we're doing with frustration, and where we feel like some of our goals or our, some of our goals, some of our actions, right, are being kind of like held back. So we'll talk about that more in that episode later this week. Also, we're going to have a lot of Mercury action going on, okay? So we're going to see some trines to Neptune, in opposition to Pluto, and then an ingress into the sign of Leo. And we are going to have a ton of planets that are going to still kind of be in the sign of Leo. So when we have significant Mercury aspects, it's important to be paying attention, to be listening, and the outer planets are definitely going to be playing a role on global topics. So we'll kind of touch base on that a little bit as well. And that's pretty much like the week at a glance. Now I'm going to take you guys day by day and we'll look at the aspects and see what notes we need to be making about our plans for this next week. Well, if you're watching me on Sunday the 9th, if you're part of the Sunday crew, As you wake up in the morning, we're going to see that the moon is in the sign of Aries, okay? So that's going to be putting a lot more focus and emphasis on action and activity and instinctual drives and just kind of getting out and doing things, even if it means doing it on our own. And it's going to be putting a real focus on Mars, okay? Because Mars rules Aries. So we see Mars in the final moments in the late degrees of Leo. It's getting ready to make its ingress. And when planets are at 29 degrees, or we feel, we feel generally things are about to kind of change or about to turn. And there can definitely be more intensity when we have some of the more heavy-hitting planets like Mars or Pluto, sometimes even like, Uranus. Ones that can represent real intense transformation, action, or change, we feel it kind of like nails on a chalkboard, especially if you happen to be a Mars-ruled chart. So if you are an Aries or a Scorpio rising, you're going to be noticing that your planetary ruler Mars is getting ready to change signs. You're going to feel that shift maybe a little bit more than others, as well as the sign that will be ingressing into. So Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising might notice that kind of uptick in energy as well. So we're picking up the energy of kind of like, okay, there's this intense thing that we've been working on that we're really passionate about, that we really love, right, Leo? That's kind of coming to the end of its journey, and it's getting ready to move into a mutable earth sign, which represents change, also anything in regards to assessing or organizing, cleaning, healing. So Mars's kind of actions take more a direction in the, themes of Virgo, which is going to be being of service, helping, right? Cleaning, organizing, supporting other people, healing other people, and coming to the rescue, right, of others. So there's going to be much more action kind of revolving around those kinds of themes. Now today, the moon is coming into its 3/4 square, which is kind of like that breakdown, like kind of like dismantling period, as we are going to be seeing a number of aspects between the moon and placements that are actually in Cancer. So we've got Juno there representing our emotional connections to relationships and commitment, devotion. The Sun in Cancer, which is like really highlighting the need to kind of retreat a little bit, rest, recuperate, focus more on private life, emotions, and our domestic needs. Lilith is kind of hanging out there, so there's definitely a lot of feelings revolving around intense emotions, especially when it comes to family or female-related topics. It can also be in relation to challenges with homeland security, domestic security, and fears revolving around whether or not there's security, and then Mercury, which is the messenger and the mind. So wow, definitely I think the square is going to be quite action-packed because we've got a couple asteroids that are kind of factored in there. I do feel like with the cardinal squares in general, we do see a little bit more action. So this is like where, our own personal needs, Aries, is coming into friction with our homes, our families, our emotion, or the past. And so we can be feeling a little crabby today and tomorrow, definitely pun intended, but it's there. And when we have the 3/4 square, we're coming into the phase where we're getting ready for this incoming new moon in Cancer that you guys are going to be seeing, that's coming in next week. Now, if you guys want to see more about that particular new moon, there is a video out already where I take it through the 12 signs and I talk about what this means and where this is essentially like a new moon that is planting a seed, but it's kind of as a result of some kind of pressure, right? Oppositions to Pluto, squares to, the nodes and other things that we kind of see kind of factored into that new moon chart. So you may start to feel that emotional crisis, or maybe even the reactions, right? Because the moon in Aries is very reactional. It has a tendency to need an outlet for its emotions and its feelings. And we'll see the moon come into contact with Chiron and also square the sun. So, today is kind of like maybe feeling a little bit pulled in opposite directions. Like there's a sense of what I want to do, what I need to do, what's going to give me freedom, what's going to seem more exciting, more fun, moon in Aries, versus, how I'm feeling emotionally or what my home or family needs are. And it might be a day where you just kind of feel like, whether it's your roommates, your spouse, your, relatives, your siblings, whatever, they may kind of be getting on your nerves. And you may find that you're just like, I want to break free. I need some freedom. So there can be some restlessness and not really wanting to stay at home, but it's not really cohesive when the sun and the moon are in a square to each other, because it kind of feels like we have different needs physically versus emotionally. So if you're feeling kind of trapped, or if you're kind of feeling like you need to get out of the house, going out, being active, doing something that's going to get you out of that space can be beneficial, but realize that people are going to be on different kind of levels in regards to their activity preferences today. Some people are going to be really adamant about, oh no, I want to stay home. I don't want to go out to dinner with the family. And you're like, okay, I'm going on my own, you know, very, very moon in Aries. The other thing that we see that's taking place also is the moon in conjunction to Chiron. So it's going to bring up, you know, emotional wounds that need to be healed. There can be like emotional outbursts that can come from this connection, and wounding revolving around issues with like maternal figures. So whether, you know, you're a parent, or there's issues with, you know, taking care of younger children, or issues in regards to a relationship that you have with a relative, that can kind of pop up with that particular conjunction today. And we're going to see Mercury pick up a trine to Neptune. Now, this is one of the like first big aspects, at least for this week, in regards to Mercury. Recently, Mercury has been in a sextile to Uranus. So this last week, we've been kind of more open-minded. We're open to talking about changes. We're learning that sometimes we need to be alone to reflect on some of these changes and really kind of reflect on the past before we move forward and we make a shift. So there's a lot of like letting ideas kind of sink in and seeing how we feel about them. Now, the first big aspect with Mercury this week is a trine to Neptune, which I think is actually really wonderful. When we see trines between Mercury in Cancer and Neptune in Pisces, this is what we call water trine, because they're the same element. And water is emotional, sensitive, receptive, feminine. And it does have a tendency with this configuration to kind of allow everybody to kind of tap into a heightened sense of intuition and sensitivity. So you may feel that today going into tomorrow. A lot of people may notice there's just a heightened sense of just awareness, or being a little bit more empathic. There might be a sense of more psychic awareness, and it's better helping guide thoughts and decision making. And so I really like that in this particular configuration. It is imaginative, it's creative, it's great for creative expression. So if you're wanting to write or create or design something, and especially allowing you to like really effortlessly tap into, you know, dreams, symbolism, and your unconscious. There may be a feeling of just being guided and some of the stuff just kind of flowing through you. So really great for conversations as well, creative collaborations. And I think we could definitely use a little bit more enhanced, you know, empathy and compassion, especially with the squares that we're seeing between the sun and the moon involving Chiron. This will allow us to have more empathy, be more understanding, and it'll give us a natural ability to connect with other people on an emotional level. So if you run into some like challenges with other people, there is a sense of being like, I understand how you feel, you know, what do you need from me? Okay, this is what you got to do. This is what I got to do. I understand. You're going to be able to kind of relate to other people more, and maybe diffuse some of the conflicts that might come from the square between the moon and Chiron. Obviously, this is also going to allow us to have much more of a connection with our dreams. And so I would say keeping a dream journal nearby, maybe doing a little meditation, practicing some mindfulness, or any exercises that are going to allow you to be more open and aware would also be beneficial. Obviously, staying hydrated, baths, being by water, you know, soaking for a little bit, these things can all help. Because Mercury is the mind and it needs to get on the same wavelength as Neptune, and the water can almost be like the conduit for being able to receive this information. And also, you know, practicing these things are not just great for mindfulness, but it might actually enhance our creative problem solving, because Mercury likes a good like riddle, or it likes to kind of unlock something or work something out. So by tapping into some of these other ways of relaxing the mind, it may allow us to think outside the box and find, you know, solutions to problems that might be more creative. You might excel at brainstorming from this aspect, and really challenge some take on some unconventional approaches, because your intuition might play such a significant role in some of the things taking place today. And some of you guys just might feel a little bit more spiritually tapped in. It may increase an interest in spirituality, metaphysics, or finding the deeper meaning of life. And you might find that you're really drawn to like mystical or philosophical studies or conversations within this day of the transit. And also exploring your own beliefs and engaging in introspection and, really reflecting on some of your belief systems can be extra fulfilling at this time. So I love that aspect for this particular day. And then we are going to see later in the day, well, it's pretty much taking place all day, but Mars is going to be in conjunct to Pluto. And that is a little bit more of like a more gnarly aspect. Now, I talked about this a little bit during my Venus retrograde webinar. I talk about how when Venus comes to 28, 29 degrees, she will be the focal point of a yod. Okay, so this is, that 28, 29 degree mark in Leo. It quincunxes or inconjuncts Capricorn and also Pisces. But when we have a sextile here where Pluto and Neptune are working together, essentially going deep and uncovering things that are secretive, hidden, spiritual, things that are going on in our dreams, behind the scenes, this sextile can work well with the focal point of the yod. So first Mars is going to activate that, which essentially means Mars is not really getting along with or seeing eye to eye with Pluto, which is interesting because they're very similar energies. And it's also in conjunct or quincunxing Neptune, which means there is a sense of wanting to have direction, wanting to move forward, but not really seeing too clearly. And in conjunct is kind of like that itch that you can't scratch, essentially. So we're going to see this get activated today and into tomorrow. This is a little bit more of a difficult dynamic because I think Mars and Leo forming an in conjunct to Pluto is definitely going to bring this theme of struggles with power dynamics, right? I think we would say that anyway, having Pluto at the last degree of a sign, plus we've got, Pluto that's squaring the nodes, and you're really going to be feeling this kick in for the better part of the next 2 or 3 weeks. But it's definitely triggered here, and it might almost kind of feel like a blind spot. But in my mind, it's not, because there's so many other aspects that are activating Pluto that we really do feel like there are some really significant issues with self-expression, recognition. I think Mars in Leo represents personal assertiveness and whether or not we feel like we're allowed to be more assertive, or if there is some kind of limitation in really reacting and demonstrating some of our frustration with just how things are kind of feeling blocked right now. So you may find yourself grappling with issues of personal power and authority with this aspect and navigating power struggles in your interactions with other people. It's very common also to find that there's conflicting energies or conflicting belief systems or actions that come with this in conjunct as well. I think that with Mars and Leo being so bold and confident, it really seeks the attention and the limelight, and Pluto in Capricorn is intense and strategic, and it's about long-term goals. So this in-conjunct aspect can create conflict between these two energies, making it difficult to find a balance between personal desires and the need for structure and responsibility. And that will continue. We'll see more of that happen throughout the Venus retrograde, activating that as well. Obviously, inner tension and adjustments is a theme with an in-conjunction because there is this sense of unease and feeling pulled between the need to assert ourselves and the need to exercise control or authority in a responsible manner. So it does call for an adjustment or compromises in how we express our own personal power and ambition. That's really important. And I think really the key here is learning to harness that power and transformation through self-awareness. So with this aspect, it's going to encourage us to be more balanced in how we approach our power dynamics. It's about learning to use our personal power and assertiveness in a responsible and constructive way, recognizing the potential for transformation and positive change that can come through integration with this aspect. And then the transformation through self-awareness is the opportunity, basically for personal growth. By recognizing and addressing these power struggles and control issues that arise, we're able to get deeper into our levels of self-awareness and understanding. And it's an invitation to examine also our own motivations, desire for power, and the impact they have on our relationships and goals. So it's not just you. There is definitely this sense of people being a little testy. It's in the air. You're going to feel it today and tomorrow. It's being highlighted and heightened because the moon is in the sign of Aries. Now, when I take you guys to Monday, that's going to be the 10th. And we're going to wake up in the morning and Mars will have moved into the sign of Virgo. Okay, so mutable Earth. Virgo is the 6th sign of the zodiac. It has connections specifically with the sign Mercury, the planet Mercury. And really what this is going to be all about is about, 6 weeks of Mars going into a new sign and really taking action in regards to themes revolving around Virgo. So from about July 10th, 2023 until August 27th of 2023, Mars will be in this sign. Now it's important for a number of reasons. Obviously, when the North or the South node ruler are on the move, we want to know. But when this happens on Monday, the South node is still in Scorpio for just another week or so. So we've got the South node Lord that's now moving into a sextile with the South node. So it's harmonious. We also see that Mars is in a trine with the North node. So the actions that we take are helping drive towards our future direction and goals. So there's some nice aspects off the bat. And Virgo naturally makes sextiles to Cancer, where we have, a little bit of action going there as well. Now, Mars transits really affect, obviously, like I said, Aries and Scorpio risings, because that's your planetary ruler. But Virgo, Sun, Moon, and risings as well, you guys are going to feel this. Or if you have a natal Mars in Virgo, you're getting ready to have your Mars return at some point over the next few weeks, depending on the degrees. This very same day, we are going to see the moon continue to move through the sign of Aries, and it's going to pick up a square to Pluto. So moon square Pluto is emotional intensity, especially in regards to dealing with, challenges in regards to control or power. And we may be feeling like we're pushing back a little bit or we're resisting. At the same time, the moon is coming into a square with Mercury in Cancer, which is all about talking about and assessing our emotions and being able to express our feelings and sensitivities. So you're going to see there's going to be a pretty gnarly T-square here in the morning on the 10th. And right around the time that Mercury hits 29 and the moon hits about 28, 29, this will be in the afternoon, that is going to activate this T-square. And this is where we have basically Mercury and Pluto in opposition, and then the moon is the T aspect, kind of like getting T-boned. That's going to bring actions, emotions, changes of emotional weather, changes also with everyone, because the moon represents the collective. That's putting us in a position where it's becoming a little bit more emotionally charged. And 29 degrees also is a very sensitive degree. So watch for that intensity in the afternoon on the 10th. And you're really going to be feeling that Mercury opposed Pluto. Now that's its whole other own beast in itself. I do think that it's bang on with some stuff that I have said over the last week or two. I don't really keep score. It's cool to hear you guys leave comments and say, oh, you talked about this and this is how it played out. I don't really say I told you so, but in this situation, I'm going to say I told you so. I kept talking about how we were going to see some kind of powerful organization or government that was really going to clamp down on communication and information and make people feel as if they can't emotionally express themselves or they can't share what's going on in their home country. So Mercury can be devices. It can be an Alexa, it can be an iPhone, it can be anything in regards to messaging or social media, emails, phone calls, it's all of that stuff. And so just recently, this last week, we're seeing major pressure in France in regards to legislation to basically infiltrate social media, be able to go in, spy, look at things, see what people are posting, see where they are, and really tap into things that they are doing when it comes to social media and whether or not they're being involved in some of the protests that are going on. So just complete and, you know, like invasion of privacy. This is a perfect example of that, because Pluto in Capricorn does want to have power to go deep and see what's going on and to assess and analyze things. And it does represent, you know, people who are in charge, whether that is prime ministers or presidents or higher levels of government. And then we've got Mercury in Cancer, which is the sign of homeland and people, and also their home communications. And so call me a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think it's limited to just this. I also think that clearly there's either some kind of backdoor to some of these particular apps, if it is possible for them to kind of tap in and listen to things. I've been reading about this a lot the last year or two. You know, it's convinced me to completely ditch my Alexa device. I have not used it in some time, along with also seriously questioning social platforms, especially knowing when I have all of my settings set in a certain way where it doesn't have immediate access to my microphone. It doesn't have immediate access to my camera, but yet the ads are picking up very specific things that I talk about that I'm not like looking for. So it's kind of spooked me a little bit. Did some more research also. Apparently this technology has been found in like Roombas, you know, TVs, which there's been some conflict over with various, you know, name brand televisions that may or may not have capability of receiving information. You know, Ring doorbells, all kinds of stuff. It's there. So, you know, I don't think it's limited to just, oh, well, it's just social media. I think we're going to hear more talk revolving around, well, where else is this technology? And is that going to be something that's going to be brought to a country in which you may potentially reside in? And where is there too much control, right? I talked about this the last week or two with Canada. Now we're seeing it with France. And as an American, I kind of stand back and kind of go, okay, you know, are the, you know, powers here watching and seeing how this is playing out in the rest of the world and how people are responding to this? Now, for reference, you know, the president, or I guess the prime minister of France, was essentially saying he was blaming social media for some of the violence and the uprising and the protests that have been going on in France, ultimately leading to like, you know, 8, 9 different nights of protests, and eventually telling, you know, the authorities that they can use lethal force to be able to shut crowds down. Really scary stuff that we're kind of facing in the world. So I encourage you to pay attention to what's going on in the 10th, because I think we're going to see another buildup in regards to this. And the same day, we're going to see then the moon move into the sign of Taurus. So it's going to move into its exaltation. This will be in the PM hours. Yeah, still in a square, but still, you know, the moon conjunct its own north node. And I believe this is going to be the last time that we are going to see this conjunction before the nodes change signs. So another reason to pay attention to what's going on the 10th, because we're finally wrapping up that chapter of having the north node in Taurus. Now, in the evening, we're going to see the moon cross the north node, and it's going to start coming into a trine with Mars. From the moment really it moves in, it will be in a trine to Mars. So there is this emotional charge, but in a more kind of peaceful manner, right? Because Taurus moon is about calm and not making major emotional waves and kind of staying grounded and taking like a practical approach to action. So I like the aftermath of, okay, this happened, you know, what do we do moving forward? So it doesn't feel as chaotic to me. And then finally, we will see Mercury come out of the opposition with Pluto and move into Leo. How might the Mercury-Pluto opposition play out for you? You know, I think we've got Mercury in the sign of Cancer, where we're talking about home and family and the past. We've got Pluto in the sign of, you know, Capricorn, which is about business and top-down structures and things in regards to, you know, elders in society and, you know, people who have this power and control over us. Not even just necessarily in terms of government or politics, but this can be conflict you're having with an older boss or an older relative. This can be, you know, getting into a heated, you know, conversation about, you know, how things used to be in this world versus, you know, where they are now. Something that's been like really disheartening for me, I think, is to like hear a lot of people talk about, well, it's scary out there. Like, it's not safe to leave your house anymore. You know, we can't go out and go places in public, or we can't send our kids to, you know, go and play with the neighbors in the neighborhood, like, you know, because the world is not safe. And I'm not here to deny that, you know, things have definitely gotten a little hairy, especially the last couple of years. It seems like it's just one crisis after another out in the world. But it's led me to believe that this is almost like a narrative that's being created to scare people into giving their power away. And, you know, I think that we have to really take a good hard look at the direction where things are going and start to question whether or not it's worth giving up some of our freedoms for security. Because that's essentially what's going to be introduced to you over the next, you know, couple weeks, couple months. You're going to hear a lot of, well, this is the sacrifice we make for security, right? The sacrifice that we've made for security, you know, since 9/11 has been having our belongings gone through, everything is looked at for even in a plane. There's all kinds of other things where the government's able to like infringe, at least here in the United States, and really kind of look into what you're doing. For the sake of safety. So we more or less have lost a lot of privacy as a result of that. What's going to be introduced here over the next couple of weeks is going to be lots of conversation revolving around how much like transparency should there be when it comes to Mercury related things. Your conversations that you have, where you're buying, what you have access to, what you're able to see in terms of what people are reading, right? All of that stuff. Like that's going to be a huge topic. And I want you guys to participate in that conversation, because some people are going to veer on the side of, well, you know, if you have nothing to hide, who cares? Talk about whatever you want. Let them see whatever you want. There's going to be other people who are going to say, well, we should have the right to conduct business privately and transact privately. And we should have the right to privacy, especially when it comes to our home and our private life. And I'm curious to see your guys' thoughts on this, especially as this week plays out, because I do think this is going to be a hot topic. It's not unusual when Mercury opposes Pluto that we have an instance where somebody is pressing us or grilling us for a secret or for information, or, you know, we find out that somebody's digging through our wallet or they're looking through our cell phone. It's also not unusual that there is some kind of communication that is generally kind of hidden that becomes, you know, more so kind of public. Oppositions are relational, so it is very likely that there is going to be more conversations about how we feel about our private life that is challenging those in power, and it's really starting to activate what's about to be this nodal change where if people want to see change, it's going to have to happen on an individual level, right? Now, let's talk a little bit more about Mars, because this is a really, you know, big portion of my video, obviously. This is titled, you know, Mars ingress into Virgo. Mars being connected to, like I said, Aries and Scorpio risings the most, but Virgo, you guys are going to be feeling this upkick in energy. Obviously, Mars is about action, and it is about conflict. It's about desire, conquest, you know, getting what you want, being there first. It's also very sexual. It's very primal. So to see Mars move into Virgo, it's interesting that it's first going to start to activate the South Node, and then next week, excuse me, it's going to activate the North Node in Aries. In my Mars in Virgo video, I'll talk about all the specific dates of the transits. I just want to talk a little bit more about what to expect right now. And I think the first thing that comes to mind for Mars's, you know, transit through the sign for me is just increased focus on work and productivity. Because Mars in Virgo is going to give us an opportunity to really develop a stronger work ethic and to be more driven and more productive. We may find over the next few weeks that we have increased dedication and efficiency in our professional or our health pursuits. And it's a favorable time for taking on tasks that require attention to detail, because that's what Virgo is good at. It's able to kind of tweak things and say, okay, a little bit more to the left or a little bit more off the top, and, you know, shorten this and, you know, correct that. And so if you're looking to really add a little bit more of a detailed touch to something, this can be a wonderful transit. It's great for problem-solving abilities and being more analytical, because Virgo is about analytical thinking. You may find yourself more adept into identifying and resolving issues, both in your personal life and also your work projects. Health, wellness, and fitness or wellness activities might also be highlighted as well, because With Mars in Virgo, there's an emphasis on health and wellness and being able to really heal or perfect some of the issues or the imbalances that we have in our life. So you might feel more motivated to adopt healthier habits, such as engaging in regular exercise, improving your diet, and focusing on self-care practices. And it's a good time to establish and refine routines that promote well-being. So if it's, hey, I'm going to get up, I'm going to make my bed every day, right? I'm going to make the commitment to going to the gym or going for a walk a few times a week, or I'm going to be taking action in curbing this bad habit. This is a wonderful transit for that. I especially love the trines to the North Node, where a lot of this might be about having better financial health, having assistance when it comes to managing our fitness and what we're eating and how we're eating. I think this is going to be wonderful for those of you guys who are trying to find ways to save money and you're trying to be more, I think, health-minded, and you're like, well, I'm going to be, making my own food. I'm going to be, prepping food throughout the week. Like, you can come up with a system for, how much you're eating, how often you're eating, what you're spending. And you might find that it's just really helpful in kind of getting that in order. I also like that eventually, after Mars gets out of the opposition with Saturn, it will trine Jupiter. And I think a lot of us are going to actually find that like less is more. And that if we do not take action to focus on our health, it can have negative health implications. And that also includes like, anger and frustration and rage and like resentment, all of these kind of like Mars related things. If we're not dealing with that, it does have a pretty significant impact on our sleep, our mental health, and our spiritual well-being. And, like I said, sometimes the Saturn-Mars oppositions can balance each other out. I definitely think that, Saturn-based charts are going to have a much more difficult time with that particular opposition. I do think that we want to watch out and be mindful that we can be a little bit more critical. We can be a little bit more, agitated because we're striving for perfection. We will notice that there's going to be an increased attention to detail. And I think that's why it's especially important to know where Virgo is in your chart, because as this transit is playing out over the next month, it's really tapping into, getting a lot of work done in that area for starters, in that particular house. But secondly, it's also going to be good because it's going to be really tapping into the energies of the North Node in Aries and teaching us that we do have to put in a little bit of work and a little bit of effort to, get results, right? Virgo is 6 signs away from Aries. So for a lot of people, it is going to be about getting more active, taking action, focusing more on health, focusing more on wellness, and realizing that nobody is going to do it unless you do it for yourself, right? You can't be expecting other people, whether it's coworkers or habits or, family or whatever, doctors, to look out for your well-being, right? That's something that's going to be left up for us. That is setting the stage also for a North Node and Aries conjunction that we're going to be seeing next year, where a lot of people are going to be realizing that the damage and the effects of not taking care of yourself and not taking responsibility for your actions can be particularly, challenging, and it can actually create like a healing crisis. Watch also for much more of a need and a desire for organization and order, because there is going to be this drive to get things organized and get things like, like cleaned up or like more presentable. So some of you guys may feel compelled to declutter your physical space, and also, establish efficient systems, creating a structured routine that's really going to help optimize productivity. That's a big one, but it can be to a point that's like excessive, especially when we start to see trines to Jupiter at 10 degrees. Potential for anxiety and stress is something else that can pop up, because the combination of Mars' assertive energy and Virgo's tendency for worry and self-criticism. This can sometimes lead to increased anxiety or stress. So it's important to find healthy outlets for managing stress during this period, such as relaxation techniques, mindfulness practices, and seeking support from other people. I especially think that's going to be true, especially when we see this Mars-Saturn opposition next week set up. It will be at a 6. And for me, on a personal level, it's been this awareness that it's more about the mind, body, spirit balance, that it can't be all physical and none of the emotional or the spiritual, and it can't be all spiritual without the physical. So we're kind of striving to bring all of that together and be able to find a healthy way of living that's going to embody all of those three various areas. More on that when we get to the in-depth video that I'll do this week. But I have some concerns for, like, the Mars trine Jupiter, that can be excessive heat and issues with inflammation and rashes and fevers. It can also be about increased issues that we're seeing with fire. Mark my words, when Mars gets to about 10 degrees and it starts trining Jupiter and then it starts trining Uranus, we are going to see more issues with fire, for sure. Now, the lungs is more Mercury. So recently, Mercury's ingress out of Cancer into Leo. You're going to hear more people talking early this week about what's going on with the fires and how it's affecting our lungs, and where are the fires actually taking place and why are they being started. Really interesting independent media out there. If you guys go and take a look at what happened in Canada, like pretty much overnight when these fires started, I saw a video of somebody who is an independent like watchdog, who goes and does watchdog stuff for fires and stuff in Alberta, and was showing how overnight multiple fires just like start up out of nowhere. Some say, oh, it's, issues with environmental stress and also global warming. Other people are saying it doesn't really make sense. You've got them all popping up at one point, and obviously flooding not just Canada, parts of the northern United States. And I have people who I have spoken to personally who have been like, something's weird. It smells like it's like chemical. And I've been doing research on it, trying to figure out, well, what's going on here? Like, is it forest fires? And I've come to the understanding that it's like the combination of the smoke in the atmosphere, like with making like chemical reactions with other things. And it's creating like a chemical reaction. And that's why people are saying that it smells like plastic, or that it's smelling like something other than wood. It's creating like several different compounds that coming together, very similar to formaldehyde. And we all know what that's used for. So it would be interesting to see more about this. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk to you guys about on my channel, it's just stuff that I'm just reading. I'm not telling you have to believe or not believe it, but going a little bit deeper into that really starts to make me like wonder, because we have seen in some parts of the United States, especially up north, they are recommending some people stay inside or they wear masks. So a little bit of like a COVID PTSD with that one. But I would be watching the news and seeing what's going on, because I anticipate we're going to see more, unfortunately, in regards to fires. Okay, so Mercury enters Leo. This is going to be on the 11th, and it's moving into a solar-based sign. So it's going to be more speaking from the heart, loud, proud. Not too many aspects that we see off the bat, other than that moon that's in Taurus will start coming into a square with Mercury. So not only do we have moon square Mercury pushing us to communicate and really stand up and say something from the heart space, but we also see Mercury square the nodes, all at 0 degrees. Pluto is 1 degree away from creating this grand fixed square. So I would say it's pretty much a grand fixed square. It's just short of a degree. This may be a day where we have to speak up. We have to say something. We have to communicate. We have to share. Even though we're wanting to kind of keep the peace with that moon in Taurus. And I'm loving the fact that with the moon in Taurus, it is picking up on the energy of Venus, getting ready to go retrograde. So you guys might notice a little bit more of like the shadow kicking in with that moon transit. Aside from Mercury squaring the nodes, which means that we need to integrate more communicating, asking questions, sharing. There needs to be more of a sense of being playful, being creative, having fun. We know that that's all connected to Leo, but Leo is a fixed sign. So Leo, like the other fixed signs, doesn't want to change. It doesn't want to shift its perspective. It doesn't want to change its mind. So we might find that it's a little challenging to wrap our head around some of the changes that are kind of going on or coming out on the 11th. Other than Mercury being in Leo, you're not going to see too much else going on. Later in the day, the moon is going to pick up a conjunction to Jupiter. So we're feeling a little bit more you know, abundant. We're feeling a little bit more in need also for pleasure, for good food, good wine, comfort, security. And it's really actually great, you know, for indulgence, I would say. Moon Jupiter, it can be a little too much indulgence, but we're not really seeing like any other aspects other than some of these sextiles to Saturn. So it might be tethered a little bit. I don't know. Then the moon's going to keep moving on Tuesday through the sign of Taurus. It is going to, in the morning on the 12th, so this is Wednesday, start coming into a sextile with the sun. Okay. So we're kind of in alignment. The more that we're, you know, touching on being in our bodies, being grounded, what smells good, what feels good, what tastes good, we're able to really focus better on our home, our private life, and our emotions. And when the sun and the moon sextile each other, things are just kind of flowing a little bit better. Picking up some nice sextiles to Neptune as well. So we've got some nice aspects here. Really up until the time the moon conjuncts Uranus, things are a little bit more kind of easygoing. And then what we're going to notice in the morning, round about, you know, early afternoon, the moon will come into conjunction with Uranus. So this is on the 12th on Wednesday. This is a little emotionally destabilizing. I definitely think that because the moon is going to be in a little bit of disharmony with Venus, this is definitely suggesting there's going to be some friction revolving around changes with our resources, changes with our money, changes with investments. You know, Venus is going to be going retrograde in Leo, and it'll be in the sign of the stock market, but also creatives, younger people, gambling. So not the best day for like financial transactions, trading, major purchases, things like that, because to me it seems like there can be some either relational disagreements, some, you know, business disagreements. There can be some impulse buying or spending that just does not hit the spot, right? Okay, so then we're going to see the moon continue to keep moving through Taurus, and it's going to pick up a trine to Pluto, and that's going to happen later in the evening as it's getting ready to ingress and go into Gemini. Okay, and it's pretty much in a square to Venus, like afternoon all the way into the evening on the 12th. So not the best for date night, relationship things, you know, investment things, pretty much all day. And then we're going to move to the 13th, which will be Thursday. And we wake up on Thursday with the moon in Gemini. So that's going to be happening right around the time everybody's waking up, at least here in the States. And that moon in Gemini is going to really tap into Mercury-related aspects. And so we've got, you know, moon sextile Mercury, so we're sharing, we're communicating, we're changing things up a little bit, we're getting a little bit more social with the moon in Gemini. And I feel like with the moon in a sextile to Mercury, we're feeling more like we can communicate and emotionally relate. Now, something you'll notice, and I hope you guys are tracking the moon, but when the moon goes through the mutable signs of Gemini, Virgo, or Sag, it's always going to be picking up a square to Saturn now. So there's like that kind of like difficult time emotionally relating, or, you know, difficult time emotionally adapting. So we are going to experience the moon square Saturn, and then we're going to also experience the moon square Mars. Those of you guys who were like the first 10 degrees of the mutable signs, I think you're going to feel this the most, especially Sagittarius and Gemini, but all of the mutable signs. That moon square Mars feels like emotionally under pressure, kind of agitated, kind of aggravated. And it also is the focal point of a T-square between Saturn and Mars. So conversations leading to frustration and introspection. It can also be about, you know, busyness, running around, getting things done, being a little bit more accident prone, okay? The 13th in the morning is not a day that you want to be like rushing to work if you are running late. not a day at any time, but really with these aspects to like not be on your phone or your hands free or texting or trying to play videos and stuff while you're driving. People can be more accident prone here because Gemini squaring Mars in Virgo can literally talk about where gadgets are impacting people's health. Something that I've been looking at more into recently has been like the health app on Apple. And a recent study, a recent research I have found just going through the health app, if you guys use that, is all of that information obviously can be kept on the cloud, but there can potentially be some real issues with where that information is going. If you have not already looked at your health app, if you use it, I encourage you to do that. Now it's showing you with the Apple AirPods that you'll be alerted if you're using it too much. And there's definitely a lot of data and a lot of like information that's being harvested revolving around how much we're listening to things, how much outside sounds are affecting us, how much use is too much use. And now there's going to be an alert feature to let you know if you've been using it too much. And also in regards to your volume. Now, if you go through the health app, you're going to see other things like whether or not you're participating in like a research study or trial. And thankfully, mine was not involved, but I have seen things on the internet where other people are shocked to find out that their data information is a part of like trials and studies. The app does claim it has to ask you for that information first, so we'll put that out there. But I think that's kind of weird that you may potentially be putting really private information on there, like information in regards to your medical records, medication that you're taking, things in regards to your reproductive health, as well as, you know, stressors and other things, how you're sleeping. I mean, I don't know, for me, it's a lot of information that's going to be on an app that could potentially, you know, get out there and get into the wrong hands. And so the reason why I bring this up is it reminds me a little bit of this. The moon in Gemini is going to be about gadgets and communication and media, being in friction with things involving health and activity, and also Saturn retrograde in Pisces, whether or not we have privacy, and what we're reflecting on whether or not we have privacy. Will this be more, you know, challenging weather where there's some extreme weather and problems with clarity or some heaviness in regards to wind and fire? Potentially, yeah, we could see this as well. But just watch for just getting agitated and feeling like somebody is pressuring you or kind of like, you know, rushing you in some way and making you a little bit more short-tempered in how you may communicate. That can definitely be a theme on the 13th. That's the only really big aspect, is that lunar aspect. And then when I take you guys to the 15th, which is going to, excuse me, the 14th, which is going to be Friday, then we're going to have the Sun in Cancer sextile Uranus and Taurus, and that's going to happen at 22 degrees. So a lot of like the time that we take to reflect and tap into our emotions, our private life, our home, allowing us to make changes and make shifts physically or financially. I like the sextile, especially because, you know, we've seen other planets that have formed that sextile, which has allowed us to make some of these changes and tap more into our emotions. I also like it because the Sun is getting ready to start picking up on a trine to Neptune, and it's going to help us make sense, I think, of, you know, what do we need to do emotionally? Where do we tap into our emotions and really pay attention to what's going on with our emotions and how that affects our body? There's a book that I started reading. I started listening to it in audio, and I ordered the physical book because I want to have a copy of it. It's called The Body Keeps Score. So if you guys are looking for like a new good book, it's about healing and the brain and the effects of trauma and how that creates patterns within your body and how your body reacts and how you treat your body. And I think that it can be really helpful for a lot of people who are still on that path of like learning more about the physical body and embodiment and becoming more comfortable within the skin that you're in, but also realizing that emotions are little signals of things that are going wrong that may not necessarily be good for us. There can be things that we're denying or things that we're, you know, kind of suppressing that starts to manifest as like physical ailments within the body. And so this can be really helpful to be tapped into your emotions with some of these sextiles to help you make the physical changes necessary. So it's a harmonious aspect. The moon's going to continue in the sign of Gemini. It will eventually start to kind of pick up a square to Neptune. And we're looking at Mercury when the moon's in Gemini, not doing too much quite yet. Mercury will continue moving forward, start coming into a square with Jupiter, and that's factored into the new moon in Cancer. You guys are going to see there's opportunities for big words, big thoughts, big communications. And then we're going to see, yeah, into the evening, the moon is going to keep moving through Gemini. It'll pick up the square in the later evening. And it's very common if you're looking around on, like, you know, the 15th at night going into the 16th and you're kind of crabby. It would not surprise me because we're kind of like in this balsamic phase. So by the time we get to the 15th and the 16th, we are getting ready to come into that new moon in Cancer. So early morning on the 15th on Friday, we are going to be seeing, Saturday. Hello. On Saturday, we're going to be seeing the moon square Neptune. And that can be a little like emotionally unsure, kind of confused. We need some space. We need some privacy. There can also be issues with honesty or clarity. There can be things that are falsely represented or kind of like, you know, yeah, just kind of like foggy, unclear, right? Manipulated in some way. And we're more sensitive to what other people are saying or doing as well. And then we're going to pick up a moon ingress into Cancer, and that'll be in the afternoon on Saturday. The moon comes home to its own sign, and it's immediately going to start picking up both a trine to Saturn and a sextile to Mars. So emotionally finding stability into the PM hours on Saturday. Some of us might find that we're wanting to spend more time at home, getting quiet, getting situated, being with family, being with loved ones, hanging out with our pets, or just having home time, especially with the sun and the moon being in the sign of Cancer. So there's a lot of focus on emotions and home. And we'll start to see over the evening on the 15th, you know, sextiles to Jupiter, sextiles to Mars. So these are some nice aspects, even though things get really quiet as we're coming into the new moon because we want to start something new and we want to set intentions. So by the time you guys are waking up on the 16th, the moon is still going to be in Cancer. I like next Sunday, to be honest with you, even though, you know, the new moon is kind of intense. There are some nice aspects right before we come into the new moon where the moon sextiles Jupiter, and it can be great for home and family and get-togethers and having picnics or being outside and being in gardens and kind of like hanging out with our loved ones. And we're also going to start to see that sun picking up a slight trine to Neptune. Obviously, Venus is getting slow. She's getting ready to retrograde here. She'll be retrograding on the 22nd, so that'll be next week. And like I said, we have that new moon that's going to be in Cancer on the 17th. So aside from, you know, just a lot of like lunar transits the second half of the week, the first half of the week seems like definitely a little bit more busy, especially looking at like Monday with all of those aspects and, you know, Tuesday when we start to see the square. So as we get later into the week, things get a little bit more chill. But it definitely feels like Sunday and Monday are the most action-packed days. One thing I did not touch on, but I want to bring this up really quick, is also the fact that we are going to have a Sun square Chiron. So that's going to be taking place on the 11th. So that'll be Tuesday. Some would argue this isn't a major aspect. I think it is because we're going to see that the moon will have just come out of Aries and it was in a square to the sun. And this is happening at 19 degrees. So this is where we're emotionally reacting, or we're dealing with the past, or we're healing the past, or we're becoming aware of the past. And like where unhealed parts of ourselves are actually having like a negative impact on us emotionally or within our home or family base. So watch for, you know, there being some challenges in regards to these topics, and like where either an individual is impacting the family unit, or it can be where there's some stuff where we're reflecting on the past and things that we haven't healed and we haven't let go of yet. And I hope that you guys make the most of this Mars transit, even though a lot more of the aspects are going to be starting next week, you know, trines to Jupiter, oppositions to Saturn. This is going to be a really interesting one because right around the time that the South Node goes into Libra and the North Node goes into Aries, it's putting a huge focus on Virgo. And for me, I think the number one takeaway has been finding ways to take initiative, to take responsibility, finding ways to, you know, remedy problems, find solutions, be willing to like kind of roll my sleeves up and get my hands dirty and cleaning something or picking something up or organizing something or just getting more active. Those of you guys who really need support from the universe to let go of bad habits or to make better physical decisions or dietary decisions, or just be focusing more on organization. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm the type of person that's like, everything needs to be organized, put in its place, cleaned up before I start a new like pattern or habit. And so that might be a great place to start in this next week. That's like making that commitment to, you know, the time to start, you know, getting active with these things. And then we can ease into it a little bit more when we start seeing, you know, Mars trine Jupiter, Mars trine Uranus. You guys will actually start to see the effects over the next couple of weeks of what physically changes as a result of the actions that you're taking. But obviously, if you want to hear more about that, you know, definitely tune into my Mars and Virgo video. So I'll take you through all the aspects. Very quickly, I want to run through the 12 signs, and I just want to, you know, remind you guys where Mars is in your chart. This is going to be for whole rising sign for Western astrology. I'm going to use whole sign because it's easiest for everybody in like a general kind of presentation for my forecast. And you can use the whole sign as well because Mars will go from 0 to 29 degrees. So whether you use whole sign or Placidus, if you use Placidus, you just need to take a look at where 0 degrees of Virgo falls in your chart. That's where Mars is going to be making that ingress. So let me change this for you guys. All right, so this is going to be for the 12 rising signs. We're going to talk about where Mars is moving through your chart. So that way you guys know like what your plan is, right? This is to kind of give you your orders of what to kind of go and work on now for the next couple of weeks. So for Aries and Aries rising, obviously this is important, Aries, because Mars rules your chart. So wherever Mars goes, it's like a little mini archetype of you. And we know that Mars rules your first house, so it rules your actions, your desires, your appearance, your body, right? But Mars also has connections to the 8th house, which is going to be about others and joint resources. It can be representative of detoxes and cleanses and things that you're cutting out and removing. So whether it's bad habits or if you need to go and see like a dermatologist and have something removed, or if you're looking to like, you know, cut something out of your diet, right? This might be something that kind of manifests as a result of your particular transits. And when Mars goes through the 6th house, it does like it there, right? Because it likes to kind of have something to do. It likes to kind of have something that it needs to tend to, or a service or a person that it needs to kind of, you know, take care of. So with Mars moving through your 6th house, it's going to be about work and it's going to be about health. You might notice that just your work ethic kicks up a little bit more. Maybe you're excelling, you know, in your jobs, especially if you have a job that requires like precision and attention to detail. Health and wellness will become so much more important for you, and you might just focus more on maintaining a healthier habit. But once again, Mars is cutting, purging, removing, and it can be about conflict. So there can be like more conflict or challenges within the 6th house. It can be about problems with coworkers, you know, conflicts that you're having with them over scheduling and responsibility and time. You can also be a little bit more accident prone here, so be mindful of that, especially as Mars starts to come into an opposition with Saturn, okay? So that's your focus for the next couple weeks. On to Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? You have Mars going into Virgo, which is a sister sign for you, Taurus. So generally these transits are favorable for you. And if you have any planets in Taurus at all, sun, moon, or rising, eventually you will receive a trine for Mars. Now, the 5th house, right? Mars going through there is going to put an emphasis on creativity, on romance, and self-expression. You may find that your approach to creative endeavors in these next few weeks is increasing, and you have more of an attention to detail when it comes to creative projects, when it comes to your children, when it comes to your hobbies, or anything in regards to crafting or creativity. Mars rules natally your 7th house of relationships and partners. So perhaps there's more of a focus in dating and spending time with a partner or a spouse, or going out and having fun and like doing activities that can be fun but can also be active. It can also be a highly romantic time. It can be very charged with like lots of like fun, sexy, physical connection, and also just more activity revolving around you and partners and children. So if you have kids, it's like going out and doing things with them. If not, it can be discussions revolving around planning in regards to your family. And Mars also rules the 12th house. So I could definitely see like a lot more of Taurus's planning like getaways and like going places for fun, or going places for like romantic overnights and time away as well. There can be lots of talent that can also kind of come through because Mars rules your 12th house. Some of your talents you're finally starting to work on, and you're sharing some of these talents with other people. So watch for that. That can be really great for you, Taurus, especially when you start picking up the trines to the other planets that are going to be in your sign. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. Mars will be going through Virgo in your natal 4th house. And just a piece of advice I would give you is find something to do around the house. Find something to work on, find something to fix, organize, tweak, put together. So it will keep from there being some kind of friction at home, right? With family members, with roommates, with spouses, because Mars in the 4th house can be about arguments, and it can be about conflict or challenges that you're having with people within the home or the family. Now, Mars spending several weeks in this part of your chart is going to put a real focus on you know, creating a well-organized, efficient home environment. Some of you guys might be having to work from home. Some of you guys are having to hire people to come in and work on things within your house, fix things, or put things together. It's also very possible that, you know, you feel a strong connection to protect your family. So some of you guys might be talking more about, okay, you know, how are we going to protect the house? Are we putting up a wall? Are we going to be, you know, putting up you know, a security system? Are we bringing in an animal or a dog to protect our space? That can be a conversation as well. One thing that I would say is that, you know, Virgo naturally squares your sign, so there is going to be some friction to your sun, moon, or your rising, and eventually Mars will hit an opposition to Saturn. So it seems like there is going to be a sense of wanting to take action, but then somebody saying, no, you can't, or not yet, or there's a lot of action going on at home, and it's kind of keeping you from some of your responsibilities when it comes to your career or your public image. Now, Mars rules health, wellness, organization, and pets. Mars also has connections to your goals. So I do feel like for many of you guys, actually, you would really benefit from like cleaning and organizing and like decluttering your space and getting rid of things. And finding things that you can kind of go in and fix or fix up or flip if you're working on a property. That's a great way to kind of navigate this and be working together with a group. So this might also mean that, you know, friends are coming and helping with, you know, home renovations, or they're coming and helping with situations in regards to things that need to be fixed at home. Just watch for issues that may potentially arise in like conflict, and not getting in the middle of it. That's really the best advice I can give you. Good luck, Gemini. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you are going to have Mars going through the sign of Virgo, and that's going to be moving through your natal 3rd house. So, you know, for you, this is going to be all about communication and intellectual pursuits. I do think it's going to give you a much sharper and a much more analytical mind. You may find that you're more focused on writing, researching, or teaching right now. It may also bring a strong drive to gather knowledge and engage in productive conversations. I do think for a lot of you guys, especially because Mars rules your 5th house, it's going to be finding ways to creatively express yourself. So writing, blogging, streaming, anything in regards to like creative projects might be, you know, extra beneficial right now. Mars will also sextile the placements that you have in Cancer. So it is the supporting energy for you because earth and water, you know, blend well together. Mars also rules your 10th house when it comes to work and career. So I could see a lot of you guys like running around, doing a lot of like tasks and busy work around town for work. I could see there being much more of a focus and an emphasis on contracts or travel for work. And I think a lot of this is just going to be really helping you find like new ways to creatively express yourself when it comes to, you know, whatever you're doing business-wise. Yes, there can be some challenges in far distance travel. You might see that in the next week or two with oppositions to Saturn. But for the most part, I actually really like these aspects because I do feel like it's going to help you get more active. And if you're feeling kind of anxious, like going for walks or getting on a bike can be really helpful as Mars goes through the 3rd house. Watch though for conflicts that you can have with communications with other people, especially people like bosses. There could be some conflicts over responsibility and also issues with siblings or neighbors that can kind of crop up here as well. Good luck, Cancer. For Leo and Leo rising, you have got Mars going through Virgo. This will be going through your natal 2nd house of money, resources, and self-esteem. Ooh, put the credit cards away. Mars in the 2nd house can have you wanting to spend more, wanting to buy more, wanting to consume more, wanting to eat more. So be mindful of that. But as Mars goes through your 2nd house, it's going to really put an emphasis on matters of finances and possessions. You know, you might be more motivated to work hard because you have a strong desire for financial stability. And you might find that there's just much more attention to detail when it comes to your spending habits or your skills. Now, Mars rules your natal 4th house of home and family and your 9th house of philosophy, belief, and travel. So as Mars goes through the 2nd house, you may find that you're spending more money on, you know, okay, my rent is going up, or I'm spending more money because, you know, I am making the decision to buy a home, and so I have to spend the money on it, or I'm fixing something up, or I'm, you know, renovating something because Mars Scorpio energy is what's changeable. You might be willing to spend money to change your home. Some of you guys may be also letting your home go, so you have more resources because maybe you've sold something, or you're moving in with another person, or you have something that's more affordable. So you can spend that money on travel. Mars being connected to your 9th house can be about travel, or it can be about education. I'm liking Mars going through your 2nd house. It's the first planet to move into Virgo before eventually Venus, Mercury, and the Sun come. So it's a good indication that you're going to be maybe spending more, or you're bringing more resources in. And I do think it's coming from expansion in your career because you have a ton of planets in Taurus right now. You know, placements in Taurus right now that are going to be trining this. So it's very like work hard, play hard. And I think you're going to see over the summer that there's just more of a focus and an emphasis on the money that you're bringing in and how much you're actually generating. Good luck, my Leos. We have got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? Mars is going into your sign, so it's crossing over your ascendant if you're a Virgo rising. And man, Mars likes to be in the 1st house, right? It likes to have drive. It likes to have determination, passion. So Mars in the 1st house is going to have you really kind of turning up the volume when it comes to your communication skills, your sense of assessing things, your tendency to focus on what's best, what's healthiest, what's organized. It's going to have you motivated. So I think it's going to be really great. It may be also a period where you're feeling a little restless, or you're feeling like a little bit more passionate than usual, but that's not a bad thing. And, you know, as Mars moves through your sign, it's going to make a number of aspects. Probably the strongest is going to be the opposition to Saturn, which you're going to see more next week. And I think that can materialize as you being like a little eager and somebody kind of, you know, being like, whoa, give me some space. I think it can also be about, you know, what you do with your energy, your passion, your desire, your frustration, your anger. Now, Mars rules the 8th house of change, transformation, but also merger. And it also rules the 3rd house of communication. And I get the impression that there's some frustration that's going to be brewing because of something that you really want, that somebody else is like, I don't want that. I can't give that to you. Not yet. Let me think about it. And you may get a little agitated that somebody is not willing to change or somebody is not willing to get out of their comfort zone. Now, Mars going through your 1st house in general is going to definitely make you more assertive, more efficient, more detail-oriented. You may also have a strong drive to focus on improving yourself physically or intellectually during this transit. And you're really focused on personal growth. So if you start to see a little bit of pushback from someone else, whether it's a client, a partner, a friend, don't let that kind of disrupt you. Like, stay focused and know that this movement is going to be trining your 9th house. And a little bit of travel or a little bit of like connecting with somebody who can give you good advice can really be helpful as you're navigating this time where really the energy needs to be more focused on you, right? Good luck, Virgo. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing Mars transiting the sign of Virgo. It's moving through your 12th house. And this is an interesting one for you, Libra. The first planet to hit your 12th house, which does seem to kind of signify that something might feel naturally like it's kind of coming to a close. It might also represent that there's like a lot of things going on behind the scenes, kind of privately. This placement in particular brings attention to spirituality, hidden matters, and opportunities for self-reflection. I do think that it can also give you a real focus for self-improvement, especially when it comes to your spiritual practices or like going to retreats or going to therapy. It also is going to be really great for getting getting things on the road and becoming more aware of like some of your subconscious or like hidden blocks, right? Now, Mars rules your 7th house of relationships, and it also rules your 2nd house of resources. So it might actually talk about you working behind the scenes and like collaborating with other people and trying to focus on ways to like bring more in terms of resources. You may also feel like you're more willing to spend more money on like private health retreats or clubs or spas or places that you can kind of get healing. You know, obviously Venus rules your chart, so there's nothing really kind of involving Venus at this time, but I do think that you want to watch for the Mars-Saturn opposition because it can represent showing you like where certain relationships are kind of imbalanced, and there might be a need to kind of have conversations either with partners or with relatives about a situation that does not kind of feel like it's working for you, right? You might have to kind of communicate and express what's not working for you. But there is lots of healing and opportunity with relationships behind closed doors. And I think a lot of this is going to come from self-reflection, meditation, you know, becoming more aware of what you need in relationships and whether or not certain relationships are really cutting it for you. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, you are going to be having Mars entering into Virgo, where it will be spending several weeks in your 11th house. And obviously Mars is one of your co-rulers. You're ruled both by Mars as well as Pluto. So this transit is important for you as well. Where Mars goes is where action happens, okay? So Mars moving into your 11th house is going to put an emphasis on you know, really focusing on friendships, social networks, humanitarian pursuits. You may be driven, you know, to be of service to others, and you may excel in organizing or creating like a group or participating in group activities. And I do think that there is going to be like a strong desire to contribute to a group effort or a collective effort. For some of you guys, it might just be, I really need to see my friends. I need to go and hang out with them. I haven't seen them for a while. It might also mean that there's something that's going on that you're really passionate about, and you decide to like join like a group cause as a result of that. Mars rules your 1st house of self and body, as well as your 6th house, which is about health and wellness. So I wonder if you're going to be like seeking support from other people to help you remedy something. You know, going to like group classes or going and taking like a martial arts class or going and taking like a yoga class can be really great, especially if it incorporates like self-defense or like heat. I think that you might really enjoy that throughout this transit. And Mars is going to sextile your placements in Scorpio natally throughout this particular aspect. And it will also come into some trines with the 7th house, where I do feel like there can be a lot of strength in numbers and a lot of growth in relationships through socializing and going and doing things more. Yes, you are going to come, you know, to a challenge when you have Mars opposed Saturn, and it seems like there's much more of a focus on group endeavors rather than your needs, or you're going to feel like there are things going on socially that's kind of not quite in harmony either with a romantic situation or your own personal happiness or even children. And you might kind of feel like you're being pulled in like 2 separate directions, but I'll talk about that more in the next video that I've got coming out. Just know for now that there's strength in numbers, and I really recommend getting involved in a group or a collaboration with other people that is going to be allowing you to kind of channel some of your Mars energy. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. Mars will be going through Virgo in your 10th house of career. This is big for you, obviously, you know, 10th house to your sign does represent career-related things, but it can also represent Saturn energy or challenges, so this can feel challenging. The pros is that as Mars goes through the 10th house, you're definitely feeling like you want to be top dog, you want to be seen, you're definitely going to be feeling a little bit more competitive than usual, and a little bit more fierce and like willing to get the job done. But it is going to be squaring your placements in Sag. It will also be making oppositions to Saturn in the 4th house. So there's like a lot of like get out there, get the job done, but also the challenges that you're facing on a home or on the emotional front, and also how it's impacting you personally. Through the 10th house in general, I think that, you know, you are going to be given the opportunity to really focus on, you know, driving your career forward and focusing on success. And becoming more practical and efficient in what it is that you're doing for work. You might find yourself striving for recognition, and you're just really, really diligent about, you know, hitting certain goals in regards to your career. Thankfully, Mars will make some trines to your 6th house, so it's like there is a lot of work to be done. It might feel like it's endless. You might feel like you're really having to show up right now, and that, you know, emotionally there are some things that are really challenging you. But it's a really positive time, and I think that the work that you're willing to kind of get done or put into something, or the responsibility, can yield really excellent results. And there's lots of room for change when it comes to your schedule, your habits, your workspace, and like who you're working with. So I like Jupiter in the 6th house because it says like work and routine is so important for you this year. And it can also mean organization or hiring an assistant or bringing in other people to kind of help you complete a task. And you're coming into one of the busiest parts of your year. So at least from your professional stuff, you know, pretty much July all the way through, you know, the end of this year, you're going to have a lot more focus on what's going on with your career. Okay. And because Mars rules your 12th house of what's hidden and subconscious and your 5th house of what's creative, I definitely think that there can be a sense of you showing a much more creative side out in the world. You may not think that with Mars being in Virgo, but I definitely think that there is a way for you to be creative and efficient. It's very doable, especially if you are self-employed or you work as a creative in some capacity. Like, it can be a wonderful time for you. I will just say watch for what can be some challenges with coworkers. Mars going through Virgo in general, we can notice there can be more strife in the office space, but for you especially, because Mars rules your hidden enemies and it's going into the 10th house, there can be a sense of you becoming aware that some people aren't just being competitive, some people are actually, you know, going to be causing some problems at work. So watch for some of those challenges. Do your best not to have conflict with superiors as well. That Saturn-Mars opposition is going to kind of hit you where it hurts. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it's like almost like in your life right now, the show must go on. You have to keep showing up to work or keep showing up to your responsibilities, even though emotionally or on the domestic front, things feel a little heavy right now. So little bittersweet, but it'll pass pretty quickly. And I think you'll really enjoy when you start picking up the trines, and you'll realize like why actually being active and productive out in the world can really give you a break from some of the heavier things that are going on in the home front. Good luck, Sag. So we've got Capricorn and Cap rising. We are going to be seeing Mars going through the sign of Virgo, and that will be taking place in a sister sign in your natal 9th house, which is about education, travel, the higher mind, anything in regards to your philosophy. And it can definitely be activating over the next couple of weeks, going, you know, and traveling, or going and starting the process of starting a program, or learning something, or teaching something, or publishing something. Now, Mars moving through this part of your chart is going to put a real focus on intellectual pursuits, obviously travel, but also spirituality. And there's going to be this strong desire for knowledge and studies, or travel plans, and like making sure you have everything organized and planned out. You may also notice that you're taking, you know, steps towards actively creating your future. And really, you know, being more involved in either your spiritual or your philosophical beliefs, and seeing some of these things actually coming to fruition, because Mars is action. Now, Mars rules your friends and also networks and your goals, and it also has connections to your 4th house of home and family. So some of you guys might be like traveling or making plans to go and visit friends that live somewhere else. Maybe some of you guys are going to be traveling with a pal. Maybe some of you guys are going to be going and visiting home, and or connecting with family, and you're connecting with people that you haven't seen in a while. That's another way that this can play out. You know, Saturn in the 3rd house is more about the commitment to being somewhere like locally, and, you know, driving around town, versus, you know, the 9th house is getting on a plane and going somewhere. And some of you may experience some issues with, you know, family abroad, or you may experience some issues with, you know, teachers that are kind of getting on your case, or there can also be some potential like legal stuff that can come up with Mars-Saturn oppositions here. You really want to be mindful of that opposition next week. I'll talk about it in my video this week, but that can definitely have an issue, or create issues with traveling or with communication. Okay. Good luck, Cap. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, we have Mars going through the sign of Virgo. It's in your natal 8th house, which is all about regeneration, change, transformation, psychological things, financial resources, and things that are a little bit more taboo. Now, Mars is actually really comfortable in the 8th house. That's the good news. So Mars going through this part of your chart is, in theory, a little bit more easy. Mars going through the 8th house here is going to be bringing attention to shared resources, and intimacy and transformation. So you're going to focus on being able to, you know, more so, I think, analyze and manage your finances and your investments throughout this period. And you're probably going to have a stronger desire for self-improvement through deep emotional connections or themes involving self-transformation. Now, because Mars rules your 3rd house of communications and the mind, as well as the 10th house, I think that really what you're embracing is a sense of, I can't change everything. I can only change my reaction. Maybe there's going to be much more of like listening to videos or podcasts on, you know, healing trauma and letting go of bad habits and becoming more aware of how the mind impacts your ability to create change. I also feel like there can be a sense of like really kind of cutting things out that aren't necessary or that aren't healthy. And some of you guys may also, because this is in a sign that does deal with health, may find that there's more focus on either psychological or kind of like sexual health that can come up throughout this transit here as well. And because Mars has connections to your work life, there can be a sense of like trying to find ways to either negotiate or bring more money in. And something that you will probably notice throughout this transit, more so next week, is when Mars starts to oppose Saturn, which is your traditional ruler. there is going to be a sense of finding out that money is due, or somebody wants their resources back, or somebody has overpaid you and they want you to give them the difference back, or a bill somehow comes in that might relate to health, insurance, pets, or you might get like a phone call or like a letter in the mail about a bill being due that might kind of catch you by surprise. And that's because the 8th house is where we have to kind of pay things back, or you might have something that somebody else wants, okay? So watch for that as well, and look for, an opportunity to really grow, I think, when it comes to self-improvement and your connections that you have with other people. And then finally, Pisces and Pisces rising, you will have Mars going through your 7th house of relationships, moving into your opposite sign. And as I've said to the other mutable signs, this will either oppose or square you, so it can feel a little bit more challenging, especially for you, Pisces, because Mars is moving through your relationship zone. So definitely, like, relationships and partnerships are going to be emphasized with this transit. You might find that, the partners that are coming in are a little bit more challenging, or they're a little bit more demanding, or they're kind of like nitpicking. If you're single, somebody might appear suddenly and seem like really eager, and you're like, I don't know about this person. Or it might just be about you investing more in, time or energy with other people. Mars rules your resources and your money, and it also rules your belief system, marketing, and traveling. So I could see some of you guys like getting ready to launch, if you have your own business, new services, new products. I definitely think that might come from this transit. It can be a time where you're seeking assistance with other people. So whether you're looking for a romantic partner, or you're looking for a physical trainer, you're looking for a new healthcare practitioner, maybe you're looking for a new therapist or an astrologer, that can come through the 7th house, and you're more willing to seek attention from other people who are willing to help you. What you may find is that the people who are coming in are more efficient and organized, and maybe are putting the pressure on you and encouraging you to open up more with the oppositions to Saturn, and possibly like not be so rigid, and be pushing you to actually actively want to open up and create change. Now, I really encourage you guys to do this and be open to what advice might be given to you, because it can help you really kind of see things from a different perspective, and move forward and feel a little like less blocked, if that makes sense. But this will be really important for you, especially as we're going into the transits over the next week or two, because you're going to start to notice where other people are encouraging you to kind of meet them halfway. And really important relationships or partnerships can actually come from this transit if you're open to it, especially when Mars starts coming into a trine with Jupiter and Uranus. You might find that really interesting people pop into your life that you can kind of communicate well with, and they're enhancing something that you want to like learn more about, or maybe you're traveling with somebody. That's something else that could happen. More on this when I do another video, when I talk to you guys a little bit about the full, Mars trek through the sign of Virgo. So check out that video that's going to be coming out later this week. As a reminder, we're going to be having live astrology on Friday. So if you guys want to get your chart read, if you have questions about a transit or a natal aspect, please come and hang out with us. It's going to be Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Readings are going to be by donation, and you can sign up early if you look at the link on the community tab. Once again, we have that new moon video out in Cancer. So if you're curious about what's going to be playing out with that, how to make the most of the Pluto square, and be prepared for some of the emotional changes that are coming, I encourage you to look at that video. And my Leo Venus retrograde is up on my website. You can go and check out my webinar for the Venus retrograde in Leo, because that's also going to be setting up here pretty soon. We are deep in the shadow of the Venus retrograde. Venus will retrograde on the 22nd, but a lot of people are going to start reflecting and reconnecting and going back and reminiscing and hearing from the past. So if you're starting to experience that this week, just know it's because we're in the shadow. And if you want to know how that's potentially going to affect you, or more about the transit, check out my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. Hopefully this is a good week for everyone. I hope that you guys do well with some of these changes and that it's a productive week. But as always, let me know below. Leave me your comments. I'd love to hear from you guys, your hot takes on how this is playing out in the world and for you as well. I'll be back here on, let's see, what is today? Sunday. I'll be back here on Tuesday and Thursday giving you guys more of my astrological musings. Please, once again, don't forget to click the button below and subscribe if you have not already. Until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take care.